Hey guys, welcome to another video on this channel. Today we're going through IGCSE Chemistry, acids and bases, really just touching upon the key concepts that you're required to know in this topic. So without further ado, we'll begin. So we'll start off with the pH scale, a scale that exists from 0 to 14, 7 being exactly neutral, and going down the scale, the more acidic the solution becomes, and going up the scale, the more basic the solution becomes. So therefore, the lower the pH, the more acidic the solution is, with a higher concentration of hydrogen ions and aqueous. The higher the pH, the more basic the solution becomes, with a higher concentration of hydroxide ions and aqueous, and this will make a bit more sense when we take a look at the definitions of an acid and a base. But before that, taking a look at the pH scale, the pH of a chemical can actually be figured out using the universal indicator paper. This universal indicator paper, basically when you add it to a chemical, it tells you the pH of that specific chemical using this color coding system, right? And each color basically correlates to a specific pH, as you can see in this chart. So the simple definition of an acid is a substance that generates hydrogen ions, or protons, because that's what they are essentially, in aqueous. The definition of a base is a substance that generates hydroxide ions in aqueous. Bases are generally metal oxides or hydroxides, and a soluble base is what we call an alkali. So, other than the universal pH indicator that actually tells you what the pH of a chemical is, there are two other indicators that you need to know. These ones don't actually tell you what the pH is, they simply just tell you whether something is acidic or basic. First of all, litmus paper. If you were to use a red litmus paper, because it comes in two variations, red or blue, if you use the red litmus paper and you put it in an acid, there will be no changes, it will remain red. If you add it to an alkali, it'll actually change color from red to blue. Oppositely, if you use a blue litmus paper, you put it in an acid, it will change color from blue to red, and it will make no changes. If you put it in an alkali, it will remain blue. So therefore, you could say that an acid will change a litmus paper, turn litmus paper red, and an alkali will turn litmus paper blue. The other one we need to know is methyl orange. In an acidic solution, the methyl orange indicator will remain orange. If you put it in an alkaline solution, it will turn yellow. So, when an acid and a base react, you get something called a neutralization reaction. You get the salt, which is a ionic compound that results from the reaction, along with water. But what's really happening is the hydrogen ions from the acid react with the hydroxide ions from the base to create water, which is a neutral chemical, and therefore we call this neutralization. So, when we take a look at the properties of acids, there are three main reactions that Cambridge wants you to be able to recall. So, acids plus metals will also always give you salt and hydrogen. So, in this example, magnesium will react with hydrochloric acid, and the salt will be the metal ion combining with the chloride ions and hydrogen chloride, and therefore you get magnesium chloride along with hydrogen. We looked at the neutralization process before. Acids and bases will give you salt and water. So here in this example, copper oxide reacting with sulfuric acid, you get copper sulfate with water being formed as a part of the reaction. Acids plus carbonates are similar. You get salt, water, but you also get carbon dioxide. So in the example, hydrochloric acid and sodium carbonate, the salt will always be a combination of the metal ion, which is the sodium ion, with the anion from the acid, which is the chloride ions. When they combine together, you get sodium chloride, salt here, and along with the two byproducts of water and carbon dioxide. So it's fairly simple to remember. When we take a look at the base again, we take a look at neutralization. We looked at that before, but the only other thing you need to know is bases plus ammonium salts, giving you salt, ammonia, and water. So if you get ammonium chloride, which is the ammonium salt, you add that to sodium hydroxide, what you'll find is you'll produce sodium chloride as a result, along with ammonia and water. So what defines a strong acid or a base? Well, acids, remember, release hydrogen ions in aqueous, and bases release hydroxide ions. And the concentrations of these respective ions actually dictate the strength of the acid or a base, right? So a strong acid will actually have a very high concentration of hydrogen ions, resulting in a low pH. And a very strong base will have a very high concentration of hydroxide ions, resulting in a high pH. So a strong acid or a base will therefore release a lot of these hydrogen or hydroxide ions, respectively. And this is simply because the molecules are completely ionized in aqueous solution, and this is denoted by a single arrow. I'll tell you what I mean now. So taking a look at this example here, hydrochloric acid is of course an acid, and it's a fairly strong acid with a pH of around 2. So what happens is all these hydrogen chloride molecules will actually break down into its ionic product. So for this case here, you'll get hydrogen chloride or hydrochloric acid breaking down into hydrogen ions or protons and chloride ions completely and fully. So basically, if you have 100 molecules of HCl, you can expect all of them to break down to form these ions. Same thing here, if you have 100 sodium hydroxide molecules, you can expect all of them to basically break down into sodium ions and hydroxide ions, and therefore you result in a lot of hydroxide ions here, therefore raising the concentration. And in this scenario here, you get a lot of hydrogen ions as a result of the complete dissociation. If oppositely, a weak acid or base will release a small amount of hydrogen ions or hydroxide ions respectively. This is because molecules are only partially ionized in aqueous solution, and we look at that with a double arrow. So ethanoic acid, if you have 100, maybe only 2 or 3 of those molecules will actually break down to form the ions, and therefore you don't actually have a lot of you don't have a high concentration of hydrogen ions in solution. Same with the base, the weak base here, ammonia. You don't really get a lot of hydroxide ions formed because only a small amount of these molecules actually dissociate to make the ions. So therefore, the low concentrations of hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions will result in a weak base or a weak acid. So let's take a brief moment and look at some oxides. So most metal oxides will be basic, and soluble bases, again, we call those alkalis, right? Remember, bases turn litmus paper blue, but only if they're alkali, right? So insoluble bases that do not dissolve in water will not affect litmus paper at all. It will not change it. Non-metal oxides are it can be neutral or acidic. So neutral oxides are oxides such as water, nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, and because they're neutral, they do not react with acids or bases. Acidic oxides like sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, carbon dioxide, and oxides of phosphorus will turn litmus paper red, as we talked about before, and because they're acids, they will neutralize bases in the neutralization process. Amphoteric oxides are oxides that can react with both acid or a base to form salt and water. This means that these oxides have properties of both an acid and a base, and examples of such are zinc oxide and hydroxide, along with aluminium oxide and hydroxide. And there are a couple of reactions here that you need to know. So you need to know zinc oxide and hydroxide and aluminium oxide and hydroxide acting as both an acid and a base, and these reactions here summarize that. So above here is these compounds are reacting as an acid because they're reacting with a base, and so ultimately you get the salt and water. You just need to figure out what the formula of the salt is. Same thing here, behaving as a base, they're reacting with the acids, and therefore again you get salt and water. You just need to figure out what the formula of the salt is, and that's fairly easy. You just combine the metal from the oxide, and you combine it with the anion again from the acid, which is the nitrate ion here in this case, along with the zinc. So we defined an acid previously as something that releases hydrogen ions in solution, and a base as a chemical that releases hydroxide ions in aqueous. So we're going to revise that definition a little bit. There's a couple of definitions. The first definition that we looked at before is the main one, but here is the second definition, and Cambridge also wants you to understand this. Acids are proton donors and bases are proton acceptors, right? And this sort of does come into, this aligns with what we talked about before. Acids release hydrogen ions and, bases release hydroxide ions. And remember, this is the neutralization process. But if you look at this reaction between an acid and a base, you'll realize that the hydrogen ions come from the acid, and it gets accepted by the hydroxide ions, which comes from the base, and therefore forming water. So in reality, what's been happening is the acid donates a proton, which is this hydrogen ion here, and the base actually accepts that proton to make water. So this is a definition that you need to know. Acids being a proton donor. Here, this diagram here sort of takes it a little bit further, but ultimately the acid, which has the hydrogen ions, donates it to the base, and you get the products here. You don't really need to dig too deep into this, just need to know the definitions. So that's it for today, guys. For some extra content, go to www.freeexamacademy.com. We take a look at salt preparation and ion identification there. Without further ado, we'll just end this video. Please like, subscribe, and share the video as well, and we'll see you in the next video.